MacVoices is supported by Raycon, the makers of quality earbuds. Get 15% off your order at buyraycon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is part 2 in a 2-part session with featured guests Shelly Brisbin and David Ginsburg and Frank Petrie on MacVoices Live. The first time around, we talked about iOS 14 and some of the changes. Shelly was installing the iOS 14 beta as we recorded, which is something that has never happened before. We also dug in a little bit to the new iMacs and had a lot of fun, and I hope you'll check that out. This time, we go back to the fun, as well as talking about Phil Schiller, TikTok, and a whole lot more. So, here we go. I'm way past time to retire the machine that is over there.
So the one I want is $1,900.
Yeah, I would love to retire my 21.5, but I wanted to do that iPad Pro experiment.
Right.
But now I got this thing in me that I can't pull the trigger that's like, okay, now that they've released the last Intel iMac, the next one's going to be the silicon one. Now, I'm using a Samsung T5 as a boot drive on this. So half of me is thinking, if I can keep the Fusion alive, when Big Sur comes out, I'll do Allison's favorite. I'll do a nuke and pave on the internal. And I'll run off that for a while. And if that works, I'll change the Samsung T5 over to a backup drive.
So you're booting to an external drive? That's an external drive that you're booting to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's working nice. I love it.
Yeah, if you're running a drive like that with a Thunderbolt 3, I mean, yeah, it's
I'm running purely on USB-A.
Oh, what?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And it's working great. Oh, 21.5 doesn't have a USB-C, so.
Okay, well, hey, if it works for you, that's all that's important.
Well, that's why I'm thinking, if I can get, half of me's thinking, if I can, do the nuke and pave on the Fusion, use the Fusion as my main drive, and I could retire the Samsung to being a boot drive.
Mm-hmm.
Then I start getting those ideas that, I could hold out to February and get the redesigned iMac.
If it happens that quick.
I bet it's going to be longer than that, honestly.
When are you thinking, Shelly? When are you thinking?
I mean, I would think it would be at least a year. I feel like they're going to start with laptops and they're going to let those settle for a little bit. I don't think they're going to do a whole line reshuffle. They wouldn't have said, I mean, I know that when they warned us at WWDC they were going to continue to do Intel Macs, that it was about this release that we had today, but there's going to be more because they specified toward the end of this year.
Yeah.
So it feels like there's going to be another rev of Intel-based Macs, probably.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure which, but it feels like the ARMs have to. It just makes sense in terms of convincing people that there's a value proposition to start with the laptops and then to give it a little bit of time, especially since they've just come out with these iMacs. Could they do an iMac Pro? I suppose so. If they had a redesigned cabinet, chassis for it.
I think they're going to do the 12-inch. They're going to make a big splash. The 12 inches back, and it's now got an ARM processor.
You mean the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro?
A replacement for the MacBook Air? So like a MacBook?
The old MacBook 12. It'll be making an ARM processor. It'll be a big
something on that order, like whatever they call it. I mean, that's not a bad guess. Because it does seem like you start from the small end you either start from the small end physically because you say, look how light it is, or you start from the most powerful one you have and you say, look how fast it is. And you probably do one versus the other, and then you come out with another rev later.
Well, I think they've given up on lightness and thinness now that Johnny Ive is gone. It seems to me like they're listening more to people saying, look, I need battery, I need SSD, and, whatever you got to do, get it in there, put that in there.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Apple's new marketing department, Frank, Shelly, and David.
Thank you.
What's our employee discount?
Oh, yeah, right.
So when I go to start my job, when I go to start my new job, they're gonna have they're gonna say, "What kind of Mac would you like?" And say, "Well, the new one, of course."
That's right. That's right.
Sure.
I don't know if you were gonna talk about it, but you know about Phil Schiller stepping down and
No, I didn't hear
He's
that.
an Apple fellow now.
Now an Apple fellow.
Yeah,
And as I pointed out, all the Apple I looked at the list of all the Apple fellows. They're all fellows. There are no female Apple fellows.
No Apple gals?
No Apple ladies. Susan Kerr didn't make it, which bums me out because she would be my first nomination for it.
Why? So why did Schiller step down?
Well, that's the $24,000 question, Frank. You know why? I mean, I could be wrong. For no real good reason, I don't have a sense that it was a force out. I think maybe he was just ready to go. And I mean, and the Apple Fellow thing is certainly a distinguished position too. It's not just putting somebody out to pasture. I mean, Alan Kay for a long time was an Apple Fellow that continued to contribute.
Well, I get the feeling that Apple is doing a complete. Well, if you watch the WWDC film, I get the feeling that Apple is doing a complete remake of the company. A complete changeover. They're bringing in new blood with new ideas. I mean, they're responding now to the customers, it seems more. They're coming up with ideas that seem, well, just look at the stuff they're doing with the watch health-wise. I mean, it's absolutely insane.
I don't know if
blood and stuff. I mean, it's not practical. It's almost, it's almost getting to a point that you'd be nuts not to have some of these devices.
Well, I guess I'm not seeing it as it's not like cleaning house or anything. I think they are definitely putting different people in positions of visibility. I mean, you saw a whole lot more people that were leading different teams, and before it was primarily Cook and Schiller and one or two others that you saw constantly. Now you're seeing a lot of different levels, which I think is absolutely a good thing. But I'm not sure that it really is a change.
I mean, consider that they're getting into a number of different businesses, and you need additional people to run those businesses. Some of those people are going to be new. Who's going to take over for Phil Schiller? Greg Joswiak. He's been there forever. Right, so I can see Schiller. I mean, think about what the day-to-day, week-to-week, year-to-year life of a guy like Phil Schiller might be. He's not hurting in any way, but it's a high-pressure position. And he may, for creative reasons, for family reasons, for any number of reasons, have wanted, and he may have had this in the works for ages. He may say, in 2020, I'm going to step back a little bit. And there, as you say, there are opportunities for him to contribute in other ways. And, being an Apple Fellow would be a pretty good gig because you're still listened to. You perhaps work on special projects and you have your name in the ring around the top of the stadium or however it is that they honor Apple Fellows.
Yeah, the Sixers.
You get a jersey.
But it's still a stadium to see the Niners.
He was quoted as saying that he had some planned changes in his life, and he wants to keep working at Apple as long as they'll let him. And he's 60 years old. He was with Apple for 27 years. He had a great run.
I saw him jump off
I'm sure he has a lot of influence in marketing. So
I saw when they introduced the iBook. I was like 3 rows deep in New York, and I got to see Schiller. When we realized Jobs walked away that he was wireless Wi-Fi, I mean, there was this noise that went over the crowd, and then he made Schiller climb the scaffolding and jump onto this giant pad that they use in movies for stuntmen to show that the signal would not stop. But there was a thing that, at least for me, it was almost like a cast of characters I expected to see every time. Jobs, Schiller. I'm terrible with names. But, there was like 4 or 5 guys that you always expected. They had their roles. And this is what they were going to do. Whereas now you watch, like on WWDC, there were a lot of people I didn't know. That's not to say they're not qualified. it's new to me, and I just sort of, I don't know if it upsets my balance or what.
Well, but look, let's face it. I mean, the three of us have been, depending on which one of us you're talking to, we've been around this game for a while, and
So,
just by the very nature of the numbers, you're going to have to start seeing new people. You
yeah,
better start seeing new people, or Apple's in trouble. So
yeah.
I'm glad to say. I mean, Federighi is such a great spokesperson for Apple, because he's comedic, but he's serious about things, and he can be deadly serious when he wants to be.
They should have named the Mac OS after him, Big Hair.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I have no problem with this. I mean, I wish Schiller well, because I think that he for a while he was definitely second banana to Steve Jobs, and then he eventually kind of came into his own. And then after we lost Jobs, he definitely stepped up and became a much more I hesitate to say respected voice, but authoritative voice. So yeah, I mean, I think it's great that he is an Apple fellow, that they've given him that recognition for everything that he's done for the company.
It seems like it was inevitable. I mean, and not that it's undeserved or an honor, because it certainly is. But if anybody is going to qualify for that kind of honor, I mean, Phil has been around and he's. I mean, keep in mind, like, Apple has changed a lot. So this is going to sound weird to say, but he's essentially had the same job for many, many years, even though the company has grown and changed and gone into different lines of business. And yeah, I like that there are new people, because I mean, frankly, this is the least of it, because the people we see at the events are a very small minority of the people at Apple, obviously, but it does give the impression that Apple is a growing, living, changing company. And I don't honestly have the devotion to a bunch of the same middle-aged dudes that a lot of people do. I mean, Phil's all right, Greg's all right, all the people that we're used to seeing. But if you think about it, even the people that we continue to see year after year take different slices of the presentation. They're not always. It's not, well, Phil's. It's iOS time, so we're going to have Phil, or we're going to have Craig talk about Macs or whatever. They do sort of mix it up a little bit, and mixing it up to include more and more diverse groups of people is only good.
I agree with you. For me, I think it's just a stupid thing where it's like, if you went and turned on Jeopardy and Alex Trebek had been replaced, for some reason, I consider Alex my friend, and I'm just used to seeing him. And I think maybe that's the whole thing for me.
Mm-hmm. Frank, that's a good analogy, and I think that's the way a lot of us felt after we lost Steve.
True.
That, okay, now we've got this Tim Cook guy, and and he's not Steve Jobs. Nothing wrong with him, but he's not Steve Jobs. And so,
and Tim didn't come up in the business the same way. He didn't. Steve was a visionary guy. He had his reputation for his personality, and Tim basically was making the trains run on time. That's right. What is that going to mean? And he, through, I don't know how much of it was training and how much of it was his natural charisma or whatever, but I think and you notice Tim takes a considerably smaller chunk of the time at the presentations than the other people do. And I don't think it's because Tim is stage shy at all. I think he's smart enough to know that having all of that sort of energy and charisma wrapped up in one person, the way we were with Jobs, is not really good for Apple in terms of its reputation and perception and the like. So I sort of admire not only the way he presents things, but the way he delegates the presentation jobs to other folks.
Well, I think he's smart enough that whereas Jobs knew he was the main focus. He knew where to drive it. I think Cook is smart enough to know that he's surrounding himself with some of the best. And what you do is you let them go and do what they do. And I think that's where Cook shines. Because Cook doesn't rein them in that much. He's more like, look, you want to do this? Okay, I'll get you the parts and I'll get everything together. He's sort of like almost like a perfect, middle manager. Just make sure they have the tools they need. Make sure they have all the stuff on time, so that they can just focus and do what they do best.
Well, Cook did what I think is one of the best things that he could have done. He did not try to be Steve Jobs, and he did not try to find another Steve Jobs. He parceled things out a little bit to himself and to some other key people. And, sort of to Frank's example, you sort of regained your balance a little bit. And after the balance was returned, then you started to see new people slide in, and more people and more diverse people. And so, I'm sure it wasn't a fast enough transition for some people, but I think that overall it has played very, very well.
Yeah. And Cook does have his own kind of charisma. I mean, as I say, I don't know what elements went into sort of helping him develop that, or whether that was natural with him. But I think he's smart about deploying it. People know he's not Steve Jobs, but I know people who talk about encountering him or having an email exchange with him or something like that. It may not be like communicating with Steve, but it's still a pretty big deal. And Tim Cook is still a household name even outside of our little Apple universe. So he's managed to sort of have it both ways, like not be the clone of Steve Jobs, but also still be the person at the center of Apple that can speak for the company in a way that represents the kind of company that he runs.
Well, he hits me as the grandfather you wish you had. Plus, he knows a lot.
Yeah. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Raycon Earbuds. Raycon earbuds are a terrific choice for true wireless earbuds, especially if you prefer to pay about half of what you would for other premium wireless earbuds on the market. And they sound amazing. Celebrities like Melissa Etheridge, Brandy, and Mike Tyson are all obsessed with Raycons, and for good reason. Raycons give you a great seal, so they not only deliver superior sound, but also block out all those things you don't want to be listening to. The neighbors, the kids, the dog, whatever. They have a nice solid low end that isn't overpowering, and they're so comfortable that you can leave them in for the 6 hours of playtime, and you'll forget they're there. That makes them great for those extended conference calls that you're probably enduring during lockdown. I've been using the everyday E25 earbuds for a few weeks now, and they more than met my expectations, especially since I'm notoriously difficult to fit when it comes to any type of earbud. Now's the time for you to get the latest and greatest from Raycon. Get 15% off your order at buyraycon.com/MacVoices. That's buyraycon.com/MacVoices for 15% off Raycon wireless earbuds. Again, buyraycon.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Raycon for their support of MacVoices. Guys, we're starting to run out of time. There's one other topic I wanted to touch on. And Shelly, I want to give you the first word, and please keep in mind that we prefer no profanity here on MacVoices.
Uh-oh.
So
we should get Shelly together with Brett.
2 words. TikTok.
Apple was never going to buy them. Come on now. Oh my goodness. It's like a soap opera now. It's the craziest thing. I don't know what's going to happen. I am astonished, and I'm sort of flustered by the whole thing because it's weird. I'm one of those people that is concerned enough about geopolitics that the idea that there is a very large Chinese-owned social media company that is winning the hearts and minds, as it were, of the youngsters in this country is something that we ought to watch out for. But I also, the degree to which the tech and the political world have overlapped this week has made me pretty uncomfortable, and it makes me concerned that we have a situation where do we want our government to say this company cannot exist in this country unless a certain outcome that we have preordained comes to pass from a commercial point of view? It's weird. And I don't think Apple was ever going to buy them. It never made any sense.
Yeah.
No. David?
Yeah, I agree. And you know me, Chuck. I try to avoid politics as much as I can. I'm not big on it. And I don't even know if Microsoft's going to buy them. I mean, there's a lot of things up in the air right now with the whole process. Then I read about China. We'll ban Apple, so then Apple will lose their business in China.
Yeah.
So the government involvement with this makes me extremely uncomfortable. I don't like it. I think TikTok is a great concept. I think a lot of people are having a lot of fun on it. I mean, I'll be the first to admit going on there watching, and you get mesmerized by watching these videos. I mean, because of what they've got and the content. I think it's a great concept, but for them to be able to separate all of those, I mean, I think it's supposed to be United States and Canada and New Zealand and Australia and I don't know where other countries that package was potentially going to happen with Microsoft because they're buying them. But yeah, but then how are we going to ban it? I mean, that's the other question. I mean, when has the United States ever been able to ban something like a social media company like that? I mean, they obviously do it in China when they ban Twitter and Facebook and and Instagram, not things in China. So, but that's different. They control things more. So I'd be interested to see if it does come to that. How's the United States going to do it?
It's funny. I guess the political part of it, I've just sort of not quite tuned out. I'm aware of it,
Yeah,
but when I saw that Microsoft was talking about buying it, it's like, okay, that would solve a couple problems politically, and it would put Microsoft back into the social media game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Automatically.
My favorite snarky take about that was Microsoft ruined Skype. But they left, was it LinkedIn or GitHub? But they left them alone. So don't do what they did with Skype. So I don't know. Microsoft is interesting. They have bought this diverse bunch of companies, and it doesn't seem to have materially changed. I mean, Skype notwithstanding, doesn't seem to have materially changed them. They seem to be pretty good at running entities as a fairly loose confederation, which is a pretty impressive trick. I mean, I guess it depends on how well the company was run beforehand and whether you can keep those people. But they decided, I guess, we're going to let them run mostly as they run, and then either hire or promote good people, and it seems to work. But you could screw that up so easily, and TikTok is certainly one of the. I mean, Microsoft doesn't really have a successful background in social media. The closest they come is like gaming, which is similar market, right? You're talking about young people and stuff, but it's not a social media company. So I don't know. It would be interesting. I don't have any objections to Microsoft specifically buying them. I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's going to happen, might as well be Microsoft.
But I'll say that Satya Nadella has been probably one of their best CEOs ever. I mean, he really is. He is.
Yeah,
really
totally.
done amazing things with Microsoft. As much as we complain about Microsoft and how much we don't like Windows and Office has always been a drag, and you know what? He really has brought that company back to where it should have been. I mean, their stock price is up there with Apple. I mean, it's doing very well, and I think it would be a good fit for them. I think they would do good things with it. As much as we complain about other, like I said, all the other products we complain about too. I mean, they're trying. They are trying, and I give them a little bit of effort for that because I've been working with them for a long time in my job. So, and I've seen it all. So,
Microsoft is in this super interesting position too, because if you notice, the four big companies, not to, this really isn't political, but just as an example, the four companies that had to go to Congress last week and testify on antitrust, Microsoft wasn't there.
Nope.
I mean, Microsoft is a very big company. And when we went to the $1 billion club, and I actually had to make a list for work when I was writing a news story up about it, Microsoft was in there pitching. They're in the top 5, and they're not a FANG company, but they are a FANG company. And so Microsoft, in a weird way, is benefiting from the scrutiny that some other companies get, even though Microsoft is pretty far-flung and pretty diversified. And I'm not saying that as a critic. I agree. I think Nadella has done a really good job. And again, the fact that he's been able to sort of keep this company humming along with so much diversity in what they offer, that seems like that's going to be excellent protection for them. And I'm not a Windows user, but I'll tell you, Windows has, in a lot of ways, and some very specific ways I could get into, but won't, has really improved and is a better experience for people who have to, deal with it on a regular basis. And the Surface devices are good, and there's always issues. I also admire a lot about what they do in terms of software releases, just this sort of we're going to release this. We have increasing rings of accessibility so that if you want to dig down and get in the betas right away, you can, or you can wait. And we give you a roadmap. I love those roadmaps. Apple doesn't give you a roadmap.
You're right. I've been down those roads, and it's you can go real deep into some of their betas, or you can just sit back and let everybody else test it, and then go later. But I agree with you on that. That their roadmaps it's impressive that they let people go that deep.
Shelly, you said something though interesting in your first comments about TikTok, that you weren't sure how comfortable you are with a Chinese-owned company winning the hearts and minds of the young people. And I wonder if that's not all of us older people, not old people, but older, looking at it and saying, okay, that's a concern. I mean, I wonder if the 13, 14, 15-year-olds or younger, or whatever the proper demographic is for TikTok, are even paying attention to who owns it.
Oh no, they're not. That's not even the point. Well, okay, two things. First of all, I'm skeptical about big social media companies generally. So I'm not a Facebook fan. Sorry, Facebook friends, even though I'm on it. But I'm not a fan of the way those companies, American companies all, have run their business and have been untruthful and disingenuous in terms of privacy and the like. The Chinese aspect comes into play in terms of, in my opinion, we don't know the degree to which a company like ByteDance is beholden to or captive of a government that has proved hostile to the United States. And that can seem paranoid, and perhaps it is, and perhaps people who are paid to know these things in our military or in our intelligence entities should and are investigating that. And if they come back and say it isn't true, or we have means in place to ensure that you can't hack into the phones of the people who use TikTok or whatever it is, then it's up to me to believe that. But still, I feel like it's a valid concern for both of the reasons that I mentioned.
Oh, no. Well, listen, there are a lot of valid concerns here. I mean, we could do another hour on this, but it is time to wrap this up, and I want to make sure that we give everyone a chance to find out where they can find everyone. So, Shelly, what's the best place for folks to find you?
So my website is brisbin.net, brisbin.net. What you will find there are links to my book about iOS accessibility, to my podcasts, Parallel and Lions, Towers, and Shields, and whatever else I may be up to at any given moment. Mostly it's podcasts and writing that book.
Great. Shelly, thanks so much. This was a blast. I hope you'll come back and do it again. And
thanks for having me. I will.
Yeah, we will definitely have you back on once the new edition of iOS Access for All is up. So,
cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David, where can they find you?
You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. It's my podcast. Shelly's been on the show before, and we definitely want to have you on the show when your book comes out as well.
Thanks, David. I'll do a tour.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait because we talked about your book last time, and I definitely want to talk about it again.
Yeah,
a lot more stuff can be coming. So yeah, find me there at that podcast. We record on Thursday nights live here on Facebook and YouTube, and you can also find me on Twitter at DaveG65.
Great. Thanks for coming, David. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you.
Frank, when they let you out of the cage, where can folks find you?
Well, you can find me back over there usually.
Yeah.
Or in the kitchen. Yeah, it's dark. I'm on all social media at fptree. My website is ympnow.com. I also write for Screencast Online, and I'm about to embark on doing some YouTube videos for products for a company in the Ukraine that I've done some beta testing for. So
fantastic.
See how that goes. They want it by Monday. They asked me today, and they go, give it to us
If only
Monday.
you had a faster iMac, you could do that.
Well, no, lucky. Well, luckily,
just say yes.
wrote it.
Just say yes. I need a faster iMac.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help you out here.
You can have it by Friday, Frank.
Shelly, I'll give you their email address.
Okay.
Oh, man. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices, or it has been Mac Voices Live on Facebook. Again, we do this every Tuesday night, 8 to 9, and you never know who might show up because that's sort of the nature of what this live thing is. Come back and maybe you could be on the show if you want to be. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.